Welcome back to Geek Channel 8. I'm Eric,
Hey, and I'm Will.
and today we have our 5th anniversary special,
Wah, wah, wah.
which means we have officially made it to what would be syndication in the old days of TV. If your
Okay.
sitcom made it for 5 years, you
You
were
were golden.
golden.
You could get residuals and everything, but
Yeah. So before we jump into stuff for this show, this 5th anniversary celebration, just wanted to know what you've been up to since last time.
all right. So my favorite thing I've done since last time we spoke, hosted New Year's Eve, and my brother here was able to be there, so that was great. And
Yeah.
I got to feed him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I baked pizzas. This year was off the hook. I estimate that I made 20 pounds of dough, and I had like all kinds of people from different friends groups. Like I told them, I'm like, man, all my favorite weirdos are here. So it was very good, and we had a blast. And I just really, I'm like, I felt it the next day. I wasn't drinking, but my knees and my feet felt it, but it was totally worth it.
I have been fairly low key since then myself. I've been feeling a little under the weather. Last night, so visiting here, so I'm staying in a hotel, and there's like a movie theater 300 steps from my hotel. And I know that because I counted. But I was like, okay, I haven't seen something in a theater in a long time, especially one of these big multiplexes, because we don't have those where I live, with stadium seating and stuff. So they had a thing where it was like $5 mystery movie.
Oh my.
So the way it works is you pay your $5, and you go, you sit down, you watch a whole bunch of trailers, and then the movie starts, and you have no idea what the movie's going to be until it starts.
Oh my God. Okay.
So I think what this is, I used to work in a movie theater, and we used to have to show movies. We'd have to screen them to make sure there was nothing wrong with the print. And so in the old days, they used to just do that. And then it got to the point where, like, the theater workers like myself, I worked for one that was in a mall, we would, like, invite all the other mall workers that were there at night
Oh, perfect.
to come over. And so, like, there was like a taco place next door, and they'd bring tacos, and there was like the cookie place, blue chip cookies or something, and they'd bring cookies over. And then we'd all watch the movie because you had to play the whole thing to inspect it. So, and theaters aren't allowed to charge for that screening. I don't know why. It has something to do with like keeping track of box office receipts and stuff like that. It hasn't opened yet officially, and so they have to show a movie in the theater projecting it in advance of its opening, and they can't charge for it. But in, I guess, the 90s, they got wise to, like, the studios and stuff got wise to, this is a way we can promote the film. So if you remember back in the day, there used to be free passes all the time for, like, a movie that was about to open. Like, that was the heyday of, like, we'll use this to get some buzz going about this film.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
I think that's what this is now. It's like, but they found a way to charge for it because you're not paying to see that movie. You're just paying for an experience at this theater, so it's the mystery movie, and they don't advertise what it is.
Wow,
That's my theory.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that's scans though. That's very Lyft. That's very Uber.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, we're not an illegal cab company. We're not that at all.
Yeah. So the movie ended up being this thing called Primate. Yeah, it's always a movie that's not out yet. So this movie is called Primate, so it must be opening soon. It was basically Cujo except with a chimp instead of a dog. Like these people, they live on Hawaii and they have like a chimpanzee pet, you
Yeah.
know, and it there's no rabies in Hawaii, right?
Right.
Well, somehow movie doesn't tell you how. Somehow a rabid, animal got brought to the island or whatever, and it ended up, of course, biting the chimp, and then the chimp goes crazy. It's these people live in the jungle, like they have like there's no they're on the side of a cliff, and like the dad goes away and leaves the daughters alone there,
Oh my God.
and with the daughter's boyfriend, and then they called up, party because parents are gone, like so there are lots of teenagers around to be bitten, and I gotta say it's practical effects. They did not use CGI for the chimp,
Okay.
so it is a little more convincing, I think, and a lot of gore and a lot of like it is. I'd be mad if I had paid more than $5 for it, but $5 is like right at the threshold of what I would pay for this because it was, the only thing that I regret was that I wasn't drunk or something when I went in. But I thought about doing that because I didn't have to drive anywhere. I would just walk 300 steps back to my hotel. Anyway, so
Well, that kind of sounds good, to be honest, because there are a lot of real life horror stories about like, oh, chimps are great until they're upset with you or something, and then they show their insane strength. So
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's kind of a clever premise.
Yeah. I mean, there was a reason they had a chimp. Like the mom was like an anthropologist, and this is a really smart chimp, and,
Yeah.
all of that. But,
He was part of the family, right?
he was part of the
Which
family,
it made it even more horrific. Oh, I
which
love
made
it.
it even more horrific.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think your Cujo except a chimp. Yeah, very succinct. I love that.
Okay. So let's go over what happened in 2025. We were downloaded in a lot of states and a lot of countries. So we'll go over our top 10 list. Now, since I live in Vermont and you live in Ohio, and we have people on, I work in New Hampshire, and Johanna, who was here for at least a couple of the episodes this year, she lives in New Hampshire. I always take those 3 states out of the running for the top 10.
That's fair.
Uh, okay, so I'm gonna count them down and then let you guess what our number 1 aside from those 3 states is. Number 10, we have New York. Number 9, Illinois. Number 8, Pennsylvania. Number 7, Massachusetts. Number 6, New Jersey. Number 5, Texas. Number 4, Connecticut. Number 3, Florida. Number 2, California. Okay, so now all the big cities have been knocked off, almost. What was number 1?
I gotta go with my heart. Nebraska.
No. Nebraska was not even in the top 10. Although we were downloaded in Nebraska. Okay, so let's talk about the world. Okay, now the only thing I'm going to leave off this list is the United States because obviously we're a US based podcast, so that's going to be number 1. Okay, number 10 was tie, roughly a tie between Mexico and Russia. Number 9 was Taiwan. Number 8 was Argentina. Number 7 was India. Number 6 was Canada. Number 5 was the UK. Number 4 was Spain. Number 3 was Australia. Number 2, the Netherlands. What do you think was number 1?
Wow. I'm going to say Ireland.
No. Wrong hemisphere.
Ooh. Wait. You didn't say Brazil, did you?
I did not. And in fact, it is Brazil.
Woo!
Yeah. Okay. However, we every year when we do this show, I like to talk about one state or country where we were downloaded. We did in the U.S. We've done Alabama, and we did Alaska in the A's. Internationally, we talked about Albania. I next alphabetically would be Afghanistan, but nobody in Afghanistan has listened to our podcast, as far as I know. So
That scans.
next on the list is Algeria.
Algeria.
Yep. So of the 85 countries we were downloaded, there's like, putting the United Nations, there's something like 185 countries in the world, but we've only been downloaded in 85 of them. And of the 85 countries in the world that have downloaded us, Algeria was number 42, so it's right in the middle of the pack.
Okay. Cool.
All right. So let's talk a little bit real quick about Algeria. So the capital of Algeria is Algiers, which is a Mediterranean port with an iconic Casbah. It's 2,381,741 square kilometers, which makes it the 10th largest country on Earth.
Oh, wow.
It has a population of roughly 47 million. So think of it in terms of roughly 50 million. About 75 to 85% of that is Arab. The other 15 to 25% of the population is Berber. There are 2 official languages, of course, Arabic and Tamazight, which is, of course, the Berber language. The currency is the Algerian dinar, and their key exports are natural gas and oil. Yeah.
Okay, I have a specific question. And
Yep.
This is. I apologize if this is insensitive, but I don't think it is. So, do they have really good bread, or do they have curry?
I do not know.
The reason why is that there's a correlation. The one thing that a lot of countries have been occupied by other countries. In particular, the French usually leave behind really good bread, and the British usually leave behind curry, because they got it from somewhere else. But that's why I was asking. I'm like, huh.
Well, both have been there, so I'm guessing that it has both. But if you live in Algeria, you can let us know at GC8 Podcast. That's letter G, letter C, number 8 podcast at gmail.com. Okay, let's talk about the geography. The 2 key highlights of the geography is the Sahara Desert. It has a lot of Sahara Desert, and the Hogar Mountains. There is of interest is the Tassili Enger, I think is how you say it, rock art site with 12,000-year-old paintings.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Let's see. There's also some interesting biodiversity. The fennec fox, which is the tiny desert fox.
Ooh, yeah.
The Barbary macaque, which I think is the only North African monkey. And the nearly extinct Saharan cheetah all live there. So, real quick, bite-sized history falls into about 6 different periods. Prehistory, which is about 1.8 million years ago. The oldest stone tools in Africa were found there. Then there's Roman Algeria, which is over 2,400 kilometers of Roman roads, and 800 plus ruins are there.
Whoa.
So, the Islamic conquest in the 8th century. So that was the birth of the Almohad and Almoravid dynasties. I again apologize if I pronounce anything wrong. Following that, in from 1516 to 1830 was the Ottoman Regency period. This is when the infamous pirates start, right? So,
yeah, when you said Barbary, I'm like,
yep. And then there was the War of Independence from 1954 to 1962, which was a lot of guerrilla warfare. It's depicted in the classic film The Battle of Algiers, and we'll talk a little more about that in a moment. And then the modern era is considered to be from the 1990s Civil War onward. Currently, it has a tech boom. It's a hub for renewable energy research because they have turned the Sahara Desert into giant solar farms.
What?
Because it's like, what do they got? They got oil. That's not going to last forever. But what else do they got? A lot of sun.
Wow.
So and a lot of empty space that they can put up as solar farms. Yeah. So really forward-thinking country. So as far as movies go, I mentioned the Battle of Algiers. That came out in 1966. It's still taught in film schools to this day for its innovative documentary/fiction hybrid. It's also still studied in intelligence circles to this day for its depiction of urban guerrilla tactics.
Whoa.
So we actually also talked about another film from this area, The Rabbi's Cat, which was set partially in Algeria. As far as literature goes, I think the big highlight is Camus, who is French-Algerian, and he wrote a number of works of existential philosophy that are still influential today. And then I guess kind of stretching, but we also covered Conan the Barbarian, and we mentioned that barbarian comes from the Greek word barbaros, which the Romans later used to label the Berber peoples of North Africa.
Oh, wow.
So that's how we get the name barbarian. Quick bit of trivia. Algeria is the largest country in Africa by land area. But even though it's huge and it's got, all this Saharan desert, it's the Arabic word for Algiers means the islands.
Oh.
Because there are 4 tiny islands just off the coast. So, despite having all this territory, it's known for being the place that has these 4 islands. Algerian coffee is pretty popular too, and it's traditionally spiced with cardamom and cinnamon.
Oh, yeah.
So speaking of food, what was your favorite lobby segment that we did?
Well, it was actually, my favorite was from, let me see, what episode was that? I think it was the episode that featured the Edison Frankenstein. And also at the same time, no, I apologize. I'm getting that backwards. It was actually from episode 524, Durgalam. So, and I chose chicken soup.
Right.
And when we had a vegan present for us.
Oh, yeah.
So not only that was made it extra spicy.
That was Kino. Shout out to Kino McFarland, who actually, not only is she vegan, she writes for... she was a writer for this dish is veg or veg or whatever, which was an online vegan website. Very passionate about animal rights and was somewhat traumatized because that same episode or the episode before we did the homunculus where the dog dies.
Yeah. I mean, I was traumatized with that too, so.
Yeah, so you can only imagine. So, and then we had to subject her to a chicken soup recipe.
That was my favorite, though. I got really into the depths behind it and trying to make it, before we would have had any contact with America and all the foods that came from that. Because a lot of the things that we associate with our foods now weren't even available in pre-contact Europe. Usually we think of pre-contact America, but they just weren't available. So,
Right.
yeah, that was my favorite probably.
I like that pre-contact Europe. Think of it in the opposite direction.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, I love Kino. I'd love to get her back on here sometime. All right. So let's run down not necessarily the stuff on the podcast, but just 2025 in general. Let's talk about some of our favorites. Favorite movie from 2025?
It's going to sound really generic, but it had to be Sinners for me.
Yep. That was my pick too.
I mean, it just was, wow, mind-blowing for me. So
I don't think it's generic at all. I think it hits the sweet spot for this show, its audience, and, it was, of the Geek films, sci-fi, fantasy, horror, that came out last year, it's pretty clearly the winner. Yeah. It's like, Yeah. What about TV?
Oh, okay. You know what? That's a good question. Actually, something that I just finished up, right before the New Year's, was, this hits my geek spot. It was The Mighty Nine. Okay.
Okay.
Which is so at this point it's the second, I believe, of a, they do the Dungeons and Dragons, live play. Well, we've seen the other one. This is a different one, and it's an animated version of their live play. I've never watched the live plays, but the Mighty Nine gave me something that the other one didn't. It's more, I don't know. I mean, I'm more invested in the characters, and so I was really surprised by that. I just thought it was going to be a throwaway thing, because I didn't even finish the other one, which I'm kind of damning by not remembering its name. But yeah, I really have enjoyed that, and I'm looking forward to more, which probably means there won't be more for another 4 or 5 years.
Well, speaking of stuff that we've been waiting for 4 or 5 years, for me, it's Stranger Things, season 5.
Oh, yeah.
The finale of Stranger Things. Now, I pick it because it started coming out in the end of 2025, and I think it's all, I don't know if it completed in 2025 or 2026, but it's now done. Mm-hmm. I am not done with it, though. I watched all but the last couple of episodes because I'm spacing it out to savor it and stuff like that. So maybe I will change my mind if I see the ending and hate it. But so far, I've watched most of it, and it is definitely the highlight of 2025 for TV shows for me, because I waited so long for it to come out, and what I've seen of it has not yet disappointed.
Oh,
so.
I'm very happy to hear that. Now, I have, emotional issues when it comes to some of these shows. And, honestly, that show was like, I'm like, wow, you made this as a love letter to me and my boys. I felt so seen. And, so I am going to, like you, it's going to be hard. And I'm going to watch it with my wife, and we're going to savor it, But I'm not saying I recommend that sort of way of slow rolling it, because I still haven't finished Battlestar Galactica because of that. So
The reboot,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one took me a real long time, because I started watching it with my wife, and then she never wanted to watch an episode, or she had to be in the right mood, and so it stretched out forever. And I was like, that's the last time I'm doing that,
Somebody somewhere has probably already done entire paper, or maybe they even did their doctorate on the viewing habits of couples and families, because there is this whole thing, like, I want to watch certain things, I really want to watch them with my kid.
Yeah.
But, like, they're not in the mood to watch that, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll wait, and then I'm like, and then I start talking about it, I'm like, wait, did you watch that without me? Yeah, I got in the mood, and so I binge watched it over the course of 2 days. I'm like, what? Come on.
Yeah. We talked about that with Johanna when she woke up one day, and she had been watching the extended Lord of the Rings with her son, and then she woke up one morning and her son was like watching the Return of the King without her or whatever. Anyway, if you hear me sniffling, I'll just say this on the mic. It's because I have a little of a cold, so I apologize for that. Let's talk about books. Do you have any favorite books that came out in 2025?
I'm gonna sound like the lowbrow that I am, and it's like I don't read books anymore. I don't. I wish I did, but yeah.
Well, don't feel too bad. I read older books, so I didn't read anything that came out in 2025. In 2025, however, I will say I still perused bookstores and libraries and bestseller lists and read blurbs and was on Goodreads and Amazon and stuff like that. So I have opinions about some things, and I came up with a top 11, not top 10, but 11 things that are trends, book trends that I hated from 2025. Okay. All right. So the first few are perennial. They bug me every year, but they continued to bug me in 2025. The first is so number one. We'll go 1 to 11. The perennial declining of reading rates, as we can see from what we just talked about. People aren't reading anymore. It annoys me. That said, number 2 is perennial, the continued decline of literacy in the U.S. Bothers me. And 3, the third perennial trend, it was the biggest year for banned books in the U.S. The last biggest year was last year, and the last biggest before that was the year before. So we're on this trend of banning books more and more in this country in an entire,
I don't know, man.
couple hundred years plus.
That might be the only thing that turns around the interest in the books. But yeah, no, it sucks.
Okay, number 4. This is nostalgia to some degree, probably, but it's also frugality. I miss mass market paperbacks. The death of mass market paperbacks. I went into a Barnes and Noble, and I wanted just the paperbacks, and I'm like, where's the paper? They're all the prestige size or whatever you want to call it, trade paperback size.
Yeah.
The standard like 5x6 or whatever it is, 4x8, whatever it is. The paperbacks you used to buy in spinner racks, and especially if you're going to get
they were
them
everywhere.
They were everywhere.
Grocery stores.
And that's what led me to sci-fi and reading to begin with, because they had awesome covers. There was whole series of those that like Daw and stuff put out, and it was like those sci-fi
Tor
paperbacks, yeah. And you could fit them in a pocket. I miss that format, and apparently, and this is not necessarily. People always think like what drives consume, like what people. Supply and demand. Like if there was the demand for it, there would be the supply for it. But that's not the whole picture. It's also largely based on what the publisher and or middleman, the bookstores, can make money off of.
Right.
And the markup on those, they're both the same. It's paper and glue, right? But the markup on the bigger kind, like so you might pay what, $8 for paperback nowadays. If it was the old mass market, but the big ones are like over 20.
Right.
So they can charge, but it doesn't cost them that much to make them.
Yeah.
So
the bigger, they clear more.
They clear more.
It's kind of like people talk about, it used to be you could get a basic starter house, and it's like they don't build those anymore. It's like, well, yeah, because by the time a builder looks at things, they're like, why would I build a big basic starter house when I could build
10?
I could build a fancy schmancy house and sell it for 3, 4, 5 times as much, and and it's not 3 or 4 or 5 times as much work or materials. It's just so
That's a big problem where I live. There's a housing shortage, and when they do build houses, they're like nobody can afford them.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
so
you guys only have, I mean, only so much flat ground anyway. So
yeah. So okay, so then number 5. Okay, and this particular episode, because of item number 5 on my list, this is gonna get the explicit tag. We're generally like all audiences, but this one we're probably gonna get a little spicy on because the books are quote unquote spicy. This is the rise of the romantasy genre. Okay, I went into it's everywhere. First of all, I got a couple of problems with this. Let's be clear. We've gone way beyond 50 Shades of Grey at this point.
Yeah.
Like, I saw a whole table of this at the local Barnes & Noble, and I picked up one I was familiar with already from hearing stuff, and I paged through it, and it's porn. Okay, is porn. The only difference is it's porn targeted at women, so therefore it is okay to have it out all over the place.
Yep.
If it was porn targeted at men, no way in hell would it be taking up so much table space. Just my opinion, but you can, you know.
I normally I like to disagree with you, Eric, but I'm totally with you on this one. Yeah, it's absolutely. And the thing is, this is not brand new. As a matter of fact, in a way, I feel like one part of what spread fantasy was stuff like that. And it used to be. I remember this from they were just in the grocery store aisles with the magazines, and they'd have these urban. They called it urban fantasy, and it was usually it was like, I don't know, Mercedes lackey, but then it got more and more spicy and stuff. It's like, yeah, start out you might have an elf boyfriend, but then you know what? It gets at this point,
Tammy and the T-Rex.
There you go.
Well, when I started, when I worked in the bookstore over 35 years ago, I think it just started, and it started mostly, it was like vampires.
Yeah.
Like, it was vampire romance. That was the thing. And you can see that transition because some of these things we've talked about, like Dracula, already that genre straddles the border between romance and but now, like, one of the most popular ones last year was like Morning Glory Milking Farm. Do you know what?
No,
do you know what this is about?
I'm a dad. Can't talk about this.
Minotaurs.
Oh my god.
And of course they're the perfect men because like they're being milked for the
oh my god.
for their semen to make to make penis pills for normal men. So of course they're like this better, and also like don't. Yeah, and of course it's a romance between one of them and the milkmaid who of course the reader is supposed to identify with. I read it just because I was like, okay, this is the most popular. I couldn't read it every sentence of every page. I couldn't read because I couldn't tolerate it, but I skimmed it because I wanted to be able to talk about it. And I'm sorry, no matter what people say or whatever sex surveys say, don't tell me women don't want a big D, because that is like all over this stuff. It is big D Minotaur porn.
Not all women, but like, yeah. Okay, so no. Okay. In the spirit, I'm like, I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum.
Oh, I think this is great. By the way, I am totally down with this. Like, I'm sex positive. I believe in all this stuff. Just don't call it romantasy. Call it erotica or call it fantasy. It is fantasy. Just call it fantasy. That's what it is. It's fantasy. Adult fantasy.
There's something that this reminds me of the whole. You probably heard this. I'm gonna butcher it, but like. It's like, why do you probably know a lot of women who are really into true crime, right?
Yeah. I mean, we are a podcast, so like 1 in 3 podcasters I know are true crime podcasters, and they're mostly women. Yeah.
And you probably don't know a lot of guys who are really into true crime. At least if they are, they don't talk about it.
Well, let me throw a shout out to a couple of true crime podcasters shows that I think they've ended, but. In Columbus, Ohio, True Crime Garage, and then of course the guys that do Crime and Sports and Small Town Murders.
Oh wow.
But you're right. The vast majority it
Yeah.
tends to be dominated by women. Yeah.
And I was talking about this to my wife, and she's like, "Oh, it's because when women are listening to true crime or talking about it, they're trying to figure out how to avoid being a victim." And the reception is that if a man is listening to it, or he's like taking notes for his, he's making a plan.
He's making a plan.
And I think that this is probably why the acceptance of women's, I'm just going to say women's kink is so much higher, is because they're like, no, it's just a fantasy, versus the idea that it's like men are going to see whatever they're watching or looking at, they want to go do that in real life. I don't know. I feel really lucky to be at an age where I realize I don't have to solve these problems.
But you can't say that I'm wrong.
No, I really do think you're right. And I mean, honestly, the stuff I have read has gone further and is more disturbing than anything I've ever seen, which is good, because I would never want to see the things I read, because that would mean somebody was actually being horribly abused. I mean, there's that part where it's like they go places on the page. I mean, this is an old book, but I think it's Taking of Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah,
yeah.
That was Anne Rice.
Anne Rice.
And yeah, but that was usually shelved in the erotica section. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I would try to get it shelved in with the rest of the Anne Rice stuff, because it would definitely appeal to Anne Rice fans, even though her pseudonym A.N. Roquelaire was for that writing. But I think that's totally a legitimate part of fantasy and does not need to be like broken out into a separate category. And I think that, and speaking of which, this was when I saw it on a table that was highlighting it. Those are temporary book displays, but this was a Barnes and Noble. They had a section like wall shelves labeled at the top romantasy, and it was like multiple sets of shelves, so this is a big thing. Anyway, let me keep moving, because we're gonna go way over time here, but hey, it's a celebration. Number 6, book talk. This is similar to romantasy. This is just TikTok made about books, and they call it book talk. I'm like, calling it book doesn't make it any classier. It's still TikTok, But this is a huge thing even in the publishing industry. They talk about book talk, and I'm like, yeah, no, it's just TikTok. You're just talking about books instead of lip syncing or something.
Yeah, it's kind of like when they refer to bread tube, which that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, it's
Yeah. All right, number 7. This also comes from observing stuff in bookstores. And this is the opposite. I would have been arguing the opposite problem when I was in my 20s. Too much manga. Once upon a time, I would have said not enough manga. But now, I think some Redditor said it best. Like, they went into a bookstore looking at the graphic novel section, and it was like 3 or 4 of the classics. It was like, literary stuff like Mouse and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. The Watchmen was there, and this is what you can find in. It's more a section for, I need to give a gift to someone who likes graphic novels, not a wide selection of current graphic novels, Yeah. Whereas the manga section is huge. Like, it's like the latest time I went in, it was probably like floor to ceiling cases, or floor to however high they go. Probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, something around 10 cases, And there are 3 bookstores in the area of these big box bookstores, and all of them were like that. And the graphic novel section was not even a full case; it was a shelf or 2 in a case.
Wow. Wow.
And honestly, I love manga, but it's just one country in the world's form of graphic storytelling. There are indie graphic novels. There are, mainstream superhero. Marvel dominates the cinema. You'd think that Marvel would take up more shelf space,
Right.
But not.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, how is Marvel are Marvel Comics doing?
Not great. And I've heard that the graphic novel, another theory about the graphic novel thing we talked is similar to the trade paperback thing we talked about earlier,
Right.
which is that manga all come in a standard size and a standard spine, and they're easy to maintain a clean looking section, and graphic novels are a nightmare for bookstore workers, like especially if they don't know anything about graphic novels.
Yeah.
They don't know which Batman comes before which other Batman, but the manga all say it right on the spines. They're like, this is number 1, this is number 2, this is number 3, and and they come in, all different sizes in graphic novels, and
here's the other thing. Manga is still mostly black and white, right?
it is almost entirely black and white. Yeah.
So you just think about that in terms of a price point versus the color production on any American comic, which there was a brief period of black and white comics were very popular in America, but that's not really I don't think that's a thing anymore. But anyway, so again, you have a much bigger room to make a profit off of these, and the industry is just so strong. I mean, like you, I mean, we were young people and huddling around screens watching anime that wasn't subbed or dubbed. It was just we'll figure out what's going on maybe, and we loved all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it is also, it's like, well, wait a second, what about our I don't want to be nativist about it, but what about all the stuff that's here? We still have that. I think a lot of any comics artists are probably, or people who would have been comics artists, are moving directly online, and
I don't like consuming them that way. I want to smell the paper and feel the paper. And to be fair, I don't think Western comics have it down either. I would like to see more color manga, and I'd like to see more black and white comic stuff.
I think it's possible. I mean, look, some young people gave me a zine the other day, an actual printed it out on a printer zine. So anything is possible. I mean, I didn't think that was ever going to happen again. So we'll see.
So when we talk about comics, I'll get into black and white again. But all right, so that was number 7. Number 8. Okay, this is one that I don't have any hard evidence for. And I may be completely off base, especially because I live in a bubble away from civilization. Like, I was shocked how many places I can get a taco here. So I think, and I could be wrong, bookstore cafes are declining. It used to be a thing that there was dedicated cafes you could go into that have books everywhere. Yeah. Or in your big box stores, your Barnes and Nobles, your Borders, which has gone now, and those kind of stores. Books A Million is a perfect example. I don't think they do cafes at all. You go in and there'd be like a Starbucks in the middle of the, Yeah. And that was great because you could take a pile of books and read them and drink coffee and nobody would bug you.
Right.
And if you bought the books, good. If you didn't buy the books, whatever. But I think this is due to like not staffing shortages and stuff like that. They haven't been able to staff them. But I seem to think, and I don't know if this is true, that they're dwindling away.
I mean, look, we know that bookstores are all struggling. I mean, honestly, and when Barnes and Noble started coming around, they were kind of like, I was not happy. They kind of were displacing a lot of local bookstores in a ways. Mm-hmm. Now I'm cheering for them because they're like one of the last bastions, of physical bookstores. I think we have Joseph Beth here in town, but there was a time when we had, like, for instance, just used bookstores. We had not one but 2 multi-story used bookstores. No, excuse me, 3, because there's also Dudenhofer's, which just closed down recently. Mm-hmm. These are the kind of things that, like, there was a bookstore everywhere, but like now, no. And So yeah, and then of course, like you said, staffing shortages. Um, I've noticed a trend that there's a lot of pretty well established restaurants, at least here, that are closing.
Hmm.
And well, I don't know. It's hard to say which way that's going to go. I will say this though: bookstore cafes were not a thing.
No, they weren't a thing before about the 90s.
Yes, exactly. I mean, they might have been a thing elsewhere, but not here, and it was where we grew up. But like then they became a big thing. So the thing is, it can go all the way down and maybe come back up.
Well, that's true about all these things.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm being remaining hopeful, but I'm like, at a certain point, it's okay. It's the scrappiness. All right, you mentioned the tacos. Not, I mean, we have a really great Latin population here, and now I can go down my street and get a taco or all kinds of food out of the back of this lady's van.
Yeah. See,
That's
where I live, if you set your distance to about a 50-mile radius, you would have maybe 4 places you could get tacos. Maybe 4. I can only think of 3, but I'm thinking there's probably a 4th that I'm not thinking of.
wow.
Okay.
15 miles.
50 miles of where I live. On the other hand, I came here and I opened my app looking for places to eat, and probably out of the first 20, 15 of them were Mexican. That was not the case when I lived here.
No, it was not. No, it really wasn't. I mean, we didn't have we had
Like Chi-Chi's and shit, you know.
But yeah, no. Now like you have just different varieties. Like okay, so in my neighborhood, a lot of Guatemalans have moved in. A lot of my neighbors are Guatemalans, so they have different things that they eat, and they have their own restaurants. But they still appreciate like their the one that was up near Western Bowl. I just went there the other day. I can't remember the name of it, but it's like that place has been there for 50 years or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's still good,
Okay.
and even my neighbors are like, oh no, that place is great. So
Well, I don't want to get too provincial here because this is a global podcast, but
fair.
let me move on to my last 3, number 9, 10, and 11, which are I'm moving from regular bookstore stuff into the digital realm. Number 9, libraries still have not solved e-lending. Like a couple of years ago when Dune came out, the movie, I wanted to read or reread the book Dune,
Right.
but I wanted to get it electronically. I was number like 149 on the wait list for it. Now, way back in the day, say in the 70s when we were kids, if we wanted to read the Star Wars book, we'd go to the library, and if it was checked out, maybe the next week you would get it,
Right.
you know? But that's not the way that it works anymore. Like apparently, and I don't know who's entirely to blame here. There's probably blame to go around, but the publishers are a big one. This whole copyright DRM issues, then they only want to give one digital copy to the library so they can only lend out one copy at a time, which is ridiculous considering that digital stuff is infinitely
Yeah.
So like in theory, even if you had to have 10 different digital copies, that could be 10
Right.
different people. But in theory, the way digital works, technically 10 different people could be reading the same one copy, Tell me that's not doable somehow in this digital age,
It could be, but 100%. I feel like it's all on the publishers. They're protecting their investment. I mean, eventually, I don't know. I mean, the way it's going with reading and publishing and digital, they may collapse entirely. It could be one of those things like how Craigslist basically contributed to the destruction of newspapers because
although
advertising-
Craigslist isn't even a thing anymore. It's like it used to be huge. Nowadays, I don't think anyone goes on Craigslist.
It's up
anymore.
against Facebook Marketplace. So but yeah, no, it's these things. We're watching the destructions of some things that we've seen our whole lives. But I agree with you totally. I mean, as a side note, I work at a university. It bothers me to no end that students are buying textbooks every year you're a university, you're supposed to know these things. Why wouldn't you be publishing your own textbooks?
Well, here's what gets
And
me.
why wouldn't they be free with all the other money that you've already paid?
Even if it's not free, even if, like, when I was a college professor, and I am a big fan of or was at that time. I am not anymore, and we'll get into that in a second. Of the Nook, the Barnes and Noble Nook, the Simple Touch. It was $99. Now, textbooks were hundreds of dollars, and textbook rental was fairly cheap, like $10-15. So I tried to tell my students, our Barnes and Noble actually took over our bookstore on campus.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so I tried to work with them to have this done,
Yeah.
and Barnes and Noble has been terrible about promoting their own crap, and the Nook is one example. Like, and in general, their booksellers don't know very much about it. You go into any Barnes and Noble, you'll find this is true. But I was like, look, I told my students in the syllabus, like, spend a little over $100 and you got the textbook and this e-reader that you can keep for life. You know, hardly anyone did it.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why. Next generation was just not interested in e-readers. Like, apparently, you know, all the stats were claiming that, I guess it was millennials at the time, were reading more than previous generations, but I guess not on e-readers, not my experience. So that brings me to e-readers, which is number 10 and number 11. I'm going to tackle them in reverse order here. So I'll skip to number 11, which is the Nook. This was my favorite reader for forever. I still have my original Simple Touch, which is like 20 years old or something at this point. Like, literally the plastic is breaking on the buttons, and like it's falling apart. It still works. I still like it. But at some point they forced me to upgrade, and they said, oh, well, look, you'll get like, it ended up being like, after discount and after all this other stuff, it ended up being like $15 for me to upgrade. So I did it. They retail for well over $100, you know.
Okay.
So I did it. I hate it. I have two, and I still use the old one.
Wow.
Because the button location sucks on the new ones. You're always accidentally hitting the page turn button. It has physical buttons, which is one of the reasons I liked it above the other types of e-readers. But it has failed to modernize. There's no audiobook support, no audio headphone jack, none of that.
That's crazy.
There is no color, so I can't do graphic novels or whatever. The old one didn't have it either, but you'd expect it would. It has this awful blue light, you know, which like, that's the I want to read before bed. That's the worst thing, is to have this bright blue light in your face, you know. So you can't do graphic novels, art books, stuff like that. The big one for me was the old one has an SD card slot, so I can load in my own.
Oh.
And because it's not proprietary the way that the Kindle is, I could like get books from, you know, the public domain or online, anything EPUB. I could stick in there, read it with the thing, you know. They took away the card slot and whatever, so you got to buy it through, unless you jailbreak it, you got to buy it through Barnes & Noble, all right? And frankly, a lot of stuff I read is out of print. So, you know, there's no way to get it on there. And then it's also very laggy when you hit a button or a swipe or whatever to turn the page. It's very laggy. So I don't like it.
I can explain that part. That's because they're recording everything you're doing now. So on the new model.
So the Kindle is its big competition. And the Kindle is better for some stuff, but it's still, like, this is my last complaint about books now, is that it's still a locked-in platform. So even if the author decides that he wants it to be digital rights management free, you know, that doesn't matter. It's DRM free, but you're still locked into the Kindle platform. And they said they were going to change that in 2026, in January of 2026, which is right now. So I don't know. I haven't looked into it. Let us know. if you guys know anything on this. They said that they were going to like solve this problem. I'll believe it when I see it, but those are and that was a very long time spent on books. So let's talk about some of the other things we like. Let's talk comics from 2025. Now, I assume you haven't read any recent comics.
No, weirdly though, I do have a one opinion. Okay, so they're right now DC is going through their absolute universe version. So by the way,
is that kind of like the Marvel Ultimate Universe?
Kind of, but like before this, they did like their metal universe. It's like they've totally modern comics embrace having alternate universes that come and go or continue on, and then they'll take parts from it. Guys, it was probably around the 90s when the first giant shakeup of an entire comic book universe happened, and they made so much money on that. They were like, we're doing that again and again and again. And so anyway, it didn't used to be
Are you talking about Crisis on Infinite Earths?
Yeah,
that was in the 80s. That was probably
wow.
87 or something.
Oh wow, yeah, you're right. Okay, I forgot how old I was. Thanks, Eric. Anyway, but anyway, so this is just an aside because the current one is they're doing absolute, and so everything gets more extreme. This is one of those things. But like, I love the art in this one. I liked the arts in the other one, but they were sort of sillier, maybe. But what I really liked was there was a recent issue of Absolute Batman where this version of Batman is, well, Batman, he doesn't kill, but this was him right before his no-kill rule, and he just murderizes a bunch of Nazis, which is fun anyway. I would have enjoyed that. I still might have to go buy that issue because, yes, but more importantly, it made so many Nazis angry, and that just warms my heart. See, I love that comics can still do things like that, and that they are. So,
well, the original, like, Batman in the Golden Age, when it first started, he killed. Yeah. I remember he dropped the Joker off of a building. He was shown using a gun multiple times. It was not until the Silver Age, because face it, Batman and Superman came in at the end of the Golden Age of comics, and superheroes, in general, that didn't. Silver Age happened pretty quickly, maybe 10 years after the Golden Age at the most, right?
Well, was the no kill all about the comics code?
Yes.
Okay.
And the comics code is synonymous with the Silver Age, and so it gets goofy in the 50s and stuff like that, and that's when there was no kill and stuff like that. So, my pick for, and technically this came out in 2024, but I didn't start reading it until 2025, and I'm still involved in reading it right now because I like to space my things out. But it was the complete Web of Horror. Web of Horror was so during the Silver Age, you had it was partially a reaction to Tales from the Crypt and EC Comics and stuff like that. They had government hearings on this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And
Seduction of the Innocent.
And so horror comics almost completely went away. So I am a big fan of these collections like shock suspense stories and, chilling crime stories and, Vault of Horror and, Tales from the Crypt and these EC comic collections. But around the early 70s, like a bunch of publishers discovered that they could get around the comics code by putting it out in magazine size.
Oh, wow.
And this is, eventually you'll get epic and heavy metal and all that. But before that, in the early days, there was like black and white horror stuff. And the big ones were like creepy and eerie. And there were a couple others.
Nice.
And one of the ones that was a knockoff from them was this little publisher, that put out knockoffs of everything. So that, like the guy, I think his name was Sprout. He put out whatever was hot, crossword puzzles. Okay, we're gonna make crossword puzzle magazines.
Right.
Astrology, we're gonna make astrology magazines. And then like there are a couple of guys who had been, freelancers, and they're like, hey, why don't we do a horror comic? And he's like, he showed them, look, there's Creepy and Eerie, and these are really selling. And the guy's like, yep, go ahead, do it, And so, but that guy happened to be in a creator writers group of cartoonists. And so there are all these people that were in this like group that met at a bar or something like that. And a lot of them were up and coming. So some of the top talent worked on this comic magazine, black and white magazine called Web of Horror. It included like Mike Kaluta and Bruce Jones and Bernie Wrightson. And so it lasted 3 issues before it was canceled. But then there was a 4th issue that they had material that had never been published before. So Fantagraphics Books put it all together it came out in 2024, like I said, but many comic stores probably didn't even have it till 2025. And it's just black and white reprinted. And there's about a good 20 pages of history from people who worked on it, talking about it, the publishers and the editors and stuff like that. But so this is, I'm bending the rules here a little bit because it's 2024 publication, but I'm using it for 2025 because I started reading it in 2025. The complete Web of Horror hardcover by Fantagraphics Books. That's my comics pick. So even now I'm reading old comics and black and white comics, and I think there's room for this on the shelf, but you won't find that on any of the shelves. You got to go to a comic specialty store.
I just have to point out, Eric, that this very much reminds me of some of your favorite filmmakers who are like, I can do a knockoff of that real cheap, and I'm like, and they also they helped a lot of up and coming.
Roger Corman comes to mind.
Corman, exactly.
Yeah, it's like I could so I'm gonna give this. James Cameron over here a budget to make something, and it's like as long as he makes whatever.
Let's go. Yeah.
So okay.
Yeah.
So that's comics. Let's talk about games. Do you have any game picks from 2025?
Well, I've been exploring I've definitely been exploring all of the ramifications of the 2024 Dungeons and Dragons reboot, and they just released in the past couple months both Forge of the Artificer and I don't remember the title, but they're
Keep on the Borderlands.
Oh,
I think they're releasing, which I'm a little disappointed because Goodman Games has been trying to release old modules, so they had to keep on the Borderlands. I wish I had snatched it up when it was out, because now you're not going to be able to get it because now it's official Wizard stuff again. Yeah.
So I've been enjoying that. It's funny because I'm not playing, but I like to play with the parts, and I like to be in the community and see what's going on. Notably, it looks like they really are going to do, Dark Sun. Again,
they're bringing it back. I'm cautious about this. Yeah. I have a feeling they're going to gut the hell out of it, but
yeah,
we'll see.
We'll see. But if nothing else, see, the thing is that
if they do it right, it's going to come with wrapped in brown paper, and it's going to say, disclaimer on it of some sort, and stuff like that. And
well, you're not wrong, because it's.
We were talking about Barbary Pirates earlier. That is Dark Sun,
There's, it is. It's the. Okay, so for those of who listeners who might not know, it was a dark. Not only it was essentially a post-apocalyptic story, a fantasy post-apocalyptic story. It was everything from cannibal halflings to, there were. There's just lots of crazy stuff, but it was mature in the sense of actually being mature, not like I'm 12 boobs. It was really good.
Hey, don't knock that. I like that.
We know, but yeah, no. It what I do love about just them considering it has brought a lot more light back to it. And I never got to play the original, but I would love to even now because I'm like, there's so much going on here that is worth exploring. I mean, essentially the whole there it wasn't an accident that there was apocalypse, and it was driven by lust for power and greed. These are things that are pertinent today. So yeah, really good stuff.
All right. What about music from 2025?
Wow, I am such the old man. I'm like, music? I remember music. So, I transitioned from music to NPR to podcasts. I don't listen to a lot of music anymore, I have to admit. I'm going to have to bunt and hit this off to you.
I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I have Spotify still, and like it did a like Wrapped for, like the genres you've been listening to this year. And while punk was on there, so was like some sort of 1920s piano jazz or something, like among other things. So it's just like, yeah, I don't know. I don't have a lot of. I'm sure there are a couple of bands if I looked that I discovered in 2025, but not, you know.
Well, I will tell you, there's one song that I did really like. It's called "Ain't No Grave," and I'm actually not sure. If you look it up, Molly Skaggs is the artist that first comes up. But that's
Related
not
to Boss Skaggs?
Probably, but she's not the one I heard doing it. I heard a couple of young ladies doing it all together, and they were really good. They did it sort of as a how can I put it, like a bluegrass, very much so. And I don't know if Skaggs' version is the same, but it was very good. It was inspirational. Kind of straddled the line of spiritual and non-spiritual music. So these are, which I love that. It's like I think even Talking Heads did one kind of like that. So yeah,
I liked some punk bands and stuff like that. There's one I like called The Rumors. I think their first album came out last year, maybe the second. Maybe they're on to their second. Whatever. They tour like crazy. It's two women that call themselves the Goyles, and the drummer's a guy, but Carly Fox is like the main person. She's the singer songwriter, and if they ever come to the area, I think they're from like Nebraska or something.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but if they ever come to the area, I see them, but
Nice.
they rarely. Like, I wanted to see them at in Massachusetts. They came fairly close, like later in the year last year. They were playing at a sushi bar.
Okay.
Opening for it was an awesome bill. The main headliner was the old hair metal band Faster Pussycat.
Oh wow.
And so they're kind of like a cross between like a Motley Crue and a punk band. The Rumors. So I dig them, but it's like fairly. It's stuff here and there. I mean, I would love to see Amyl and the Sniffers. They finally toured the U.S. and finally came to my state, but like it was sold out in seconds.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. Okay, so I will say that my musical highlight of the year was not one but two of my boys made sure like they me and my wife, they're like, Will, make sure Will knows that Fishbone's coming. Fishbone's going to be there, and so I got to see Fishbone live and in concert. Probably for the last time I'm ever going to do it, but like it was amazing, and the crowd was they had young people there, but also it was like a whole bunch of people like Like there were people from like the Rottweilers and some other local bands because it was a whole music festival that day, and they were old guys from the local scene who were really excited to see Fishbone again. So that was the musical highlight. Not new music, old music, but I'm gonna say it. And he still got it, man. He's threw down. So, but I am also, this is sort of, I'm just taking this as it is. When he said, well, this is our last song, we'll be done because we tired and da-da, we all were like, yeah, no, right, man, it's time to go to bed. So we're like, rock out one last time and we'll get in line and get some merch because we were not, it wasn't like, oh, we could just go all night. Most of us could not go all night, but we were able to have a good time.
Well, that's great. What about anything internet memes or anything like that before we close out our media consumption of 2025 best of?
Okay, so when my wife when she wants to flirt with me, she sends me one of my favorite YouTube short creators, which is she's a lesbian woman who cuts wood.
I love that.
Oh my God.
She lives in like on an island in the Pacific Northwest or something, and like yeah,
she's amazing. So she's got the guns, and it's like I appreciate her for what she does, and it's like
I think the last one I watched of hers, she was making an axe, which is technically a maul, but she was like she found an old like rusted head with the and she like got the wood off, got the handle off of it, created a new handle for it, sanded it down and all that, and made a new.
Yeah. No, I love what she does. Yes, she has amazing guns, and yes, we love watching her.
What's her name? We gotta do a shout out.
Oh my gosh, we're the worst. But yeah, you should. And somebody's like, I sent you one of your favorite YouTube lesbian. I sent you a
Nicole Cohenin.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like, I'm like, are you sure you sent me my favorite? Because there's also Right Choice Shearing, and they're a married couple who shears sheep. These are just my people. I don't know. I get along with them. They do cool stuff, and yeah, I don't know.
Yes, and that I live in, of course, a place where there's a lot of wood splitting and stuff like that. People end up with like whole cords of chopped firewood and stuff like that. And I have never done it. I don't think maybe once in my life. And but that. One of the great things when the algorithm works with you, it's kind of cool because this has led me down the rabbit hole of the wood chopping community on social media, and she's not the only one, and there's other really cool ones too.
That's true. But like sometimes they ask her because she was on way back in the beginning. She was really doing different stuff, and there's somebody said, "What got you into this whole thing where you work out?" And she was like, girls. I'm like, I vibe. I totally vibe with that. But like, at the same time, her whole thing is really it's about learning these crafts and showing us what's possible. Okie dokie. She's awesome.
Okay. Let's see. So let's cut to the chase and talk about for 2025, what was your favorite episode, which may or may not be your favorite movie that we did. So like, maybe tell me your favorite movie that you did and the favorite episode that we did, and I will tell you the same.
Okay. Look, I'm going to say this is a cheat, but probably my favorite content, stuff that I'm going to go back to, was Primal.
Primal was probably the highlight, in my opinion, too, for the best content.
Yeah, it was just really that good, so I'm looking forward to more. Probably my favorite, maybe it's just because we have more people. When we did one where there was 4 of us, and we're discussing with the academics, and we're discussing Frankenstein. Though I'm not gonna lie, Eric, I forget which one. There were a lot of them.
I think it was Curse of Frankenstein.
Yes. Yeah. So
and we had Bruce Graver on the program, and the grandniece of Peggy Webling. Sorry, name is escaping me right now. It'll come to me in just a second. Greenbaum, Dorian Geisler Greenbaum. Yeah, those two brought a lot to that episode, I think.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I feel like the more we can do things like that, the better. Because I have plenty of opinions, but they're not the most informed opinions.
Well, so
and I like learning stuff from people who are well informed. Eric, you always teach me, but yeah.
My favorite is also for the same reason, because of the guests, was The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai across the eighth dimension, where we had the World Watch 1 publisher guys on talking about and they had all the inside knowledge. They've talked to the director many times and the writer many times and stuff like that. So having super fans on the show like that is always great. All right, so I think, is there anything else from 2025 you want to talk about before we wrap this up?
I'm going to say, for my sake, I'm going to try to lead with fewer recipes that are basically, first you get the oil hot. I understand, but that is flavor, but maybe that's not for everybody. So I'll try to diversify a little bit. Maybe some baking or something.
If we ever get a real true website, I'm going to put up all these recipes. But for now, I try to make stuff that pairs with the film really well and or is something that can be made by the listeners. So I try to give measurements and everything so that's an actual recipe so that they can go back and listen to it and be like, okay, I want to make that thing.
Recipes, huh? Yeah, I've heard of those.
Okay.
I think they're suggestions mostly.
Well, but you give people something to start with. You give them the recipe and then they can do it any way they want.
Right.
I always
I'm
talk
just
about
really bad at it.
I always talk about how I deviate from the recipes.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's it for now. This is hitting the 5-year mark. I don't know if we'll be around for another 5 years. We'll see. But if you want us to be like and subscribe and rate and review on whatever platforms you consume this podcast from, I highly recommend giving us a rating on Apple Podcasts, because that is sort of the gold standard for podcast ratings. And if you like the show, tell a friend or two about it. That's one of the best ways to spread the word. If you want to talk to us directly, we have a Facebook group. Look up Geek Channel 8 fan group, or you can write to us at GC8 Podcast, letter G, letter C, number 8, all one word, podcast at gmail.com. Until next time, this is Eric.
And I'm Will.
Signing off.